Hello everybody, welcome back to another Batman miniature game battle report 350 rep of the Court of Owls versus a team that doesn't actually exist. It doesn't have any rules, there's no team rules made for them yet. I'm hoping the night models do at some point, but we're going to be running some custom rules that we'll go over. Teams are very powerful by default, see the Teen Titans most recently for example. So the team rules usually have to kind of balance them out by having a few negatives. So we're going to give it a go and have a custom team of Dark Knights. We'll go into them in detail next. So here is the team that doesn't exist, all the Dark Knight metal models that exist. The Batman Who Laughs, the Red Death, the Merciless and the Drowned. There's 3 evil Batmen that haven't had miniatures made of them. Hope they do at some point. They're all free agents just to be used in like evil crews. However, I thought it'd be fun to try and make up some acceptably balanced rules. I'll write out the rules that we're about to go through in the comments for you to go over. Consider these like a 1.0, subject to change. We're going to test them today, see if they're a bit too powerful, a bit too weak, because there's only 4 miniatures, but they're all very powerful. So to go over the rules, the rep cost of all of these come to 462 incidentally, but similar to the Teen Titans, we're going to work our way around that. So in terms of custom rules, the team rules, we're going to go with the only thing that matters. This team takes no objectives and can only score victory points from KOs and casualties. They can, however, contest. They just can't score. This team scores a bonus 2 victory points for making the enemy leader a casualty, or 3 if it was a Batman. Does that make sense? Basically like the murderer trait, which the Merciless has, they only get victory points from killing, but they also get additional bonus points if they manage to take off the head of the enemy team. And a little extra if it's Batman. Second custom rule, first among equals, every model in this crew is considered a leader for the purposes of KO casualty victory points. The actual leader is the Batman Who Laughs, however say the Red Death gets knocked out or made a casualty, he gives up points as if he was a leader as well. So taking any of them down is very valuable. And then finally, a dark purpose for every 2 models in this crew, minus 56 rep, that's just to make it a legal 350 point crew, basically. So 2 and 2, 112, brings it down to 350 rep. No additional gear, nothing like that. And that's the team. And here are the 350 rep of Court of Owls that might or might not be the unlucky ones to test this custom Dark Knight team. Being led by Lincoln Marsh, sidekick is the High Court Owl to give them extra victory points. Then we have the 1980s Talon, Strix, the Talon, and Henry Ballard. The henchmen who do not have fast by default have been given it via genetic mutation, and Strix has the ancient training as well. Other than that, they are as they come. Their objectives are the Court of Owls, the medical, and the ammo. So for our mission, rolled up once again and got Skirmish. I'm actually okay with that because I think Skirmish might be my favourite. It helps get to the action quicker as well because it has the biggest deployment zones. So that's bonus victory points if you kill the opponent boss. So coupled with the custom Dark Knight team roles, that means Lincoln Marsh has a very high victory point price on his head. And then teach him a lesson which we have never seen in effect, although if 2 of the Dark Knights go down, the Court of Owls will get that one as well. So the Court of Owls have deployed here, the Red Death is there and he will be doing his Speed Force stuff before each round. Batman Who Laughs and the Merciless are here, and then the Drowned is next to the Sewer Grating there in the 8-inch deployment. We come over here. We can see where some of the owl markers have been deployed. Over there, and where's the other one? Oh right, yeah, there's 2 there. I think they might be a bit too close to each other. And then the owls are here, basically clumped together in a line, right up to the deployment. It's going to be a very bloody battle report. I have not placed the objectives for the Court of Owls. Hang on a second. Alright, did the owls, forgot the other 2. There's the ammo there next to Sewer Grating. There's the medical behind them. Has to be in the deployment zone. Put them there. So, we're ready to get started. Again, these are custom rules, so if it proves to be too overpowered, it can be tweaked and tried again. Let's go over to the bag and see who's going first. Batman logo for the evil bat people, and then just Bane for the Court of Owls because there's nothing else fitting. So battle round 1 will be going with the Court of Owls first, although it will actually be the Speed Force first, which we'll handle in a second. So before the first battle round begins, the Red Death has Speed Force 4, so he's not quite as proficient at using it as the Flash models. But for that he is using Super Speed 2, 1 and Muscle Growth. So before the first turn basically he gets 12 inches of movement which he's going to use, so you'll see him in a different place once we get round to his activation. Let's get started. So to get this round started, Lincoln Marsh activated. He inspired to give an extra counter to 1980s Talon and Henry Ballard. Then he activated Fly and used his full movement to get up there, where he is relatively safe actually, because I think the Batman Who Laughs is the only person with ranged. Well, I don't know, the Drowned has a cone, but he's basically just pushing up there, maybe to try and force them to move, ignore the rest of his crew while they move up. Either way, he knows he's got a target on his head that's worth a ridiculous amount of victory points. So let's see how the game plan works out. So because the Dark Knights have so few miniatures, that avails them 2 passes to use in total, and they have used both. So to cover a couple of quick Court of Owls activations, the Talon activated and has moved up with a little bit of cover from this box here. Then the 1980s Talon, who has a lot of defense dice currently, she just sprinted with her extra move, availed from, apparently that's my word of the day, from Lincoln using Inspire, up in the AoE of that L marker, approaching the Red Death, because how else is she going to hit him? So for the first proper activation for the Dark Knights, the Merciless activated, and he is large and pretty fast, 3 movement counters max. He has moved up to there. Just going to point out something I always forget as well, but the 1980s Talon having so many defense dice is irrelevant against the Red Death, because you need to be a speedster to block attacks from a speedster. It's part of the speedster rule, always forget, everybody does, but a mistake was made early on. But anyway, back over to the Court of Owls. So probably very aware that they don't really want a protracted fight against like 4 evil Batmen in the middle of the map, forcing them to split up a little bit now. Henry Ballard activated, moved next to the sewer grating there, he took it, and he is down here. So he is holding the ammo for the end of a turn. He's going to hopefully force someone to come back and get him. The Batman Who Laughs has activated next. He has a lot of movement. He's large, has 3 counters. He's a trickster as well, so he can reassign at the start of his activation. He moved all the way back here. He did not have enough movement to contest the ammo. However, he shot one of his 2 shots from his gun at Henry Ballard. Did 1 blood, 1 stun, plus an extra stun for the critical result. However, Henry has invulnerability 1, so the 1 blood is negated, and he has the 2 stun sitting on him. The next model to activate for the court was the High Court Lady, who has moved up behind her Talon bodyguard essentially. She's just there again to generate more points. I think if the team has any chance against the Dark Knights, they're going to have to accumulate points quickly. We'll see if that pays off though. There's still the Drowned or the Red Death to go next. The Drowned activated next and has moved up right next to the lamp. She used one of her 3 Dark Waters attacks, which used the spray. She hoped it would cover both the Talon and the High Court Lady. However, the High Court Lady was just out of range, so only the Talon got hit. Suffered the cold effect, which just means 1 movement counter is taken away, but he's already gone, so that's fairly irrelevant. And 1 blood, 1 stun from the Dark Waters. So a relatively quick first battle round, because we're going to cover the remaining 2 activations now. Strix has moved up as far as she could go. She's next to Sewer Grating, but is just kind of bearing down on the Drowned. You know what, actually, didn't she... Yeah, she could throw some throwing knives at the Drowned. We'll cover that in a second. The Red Death activated, moved to the far side of a 1980s Talon. Might be a better view right there. Swung at her 4 times, rolled 3 2s and a 3. She is defense 4, so he failed to do any damage, which is actually kind of surprising. Alright, we'll be back in a second with an amendment regarding Strix. So Strix wasn't able to do anything. She has missed with her throwing knives. The Drowned is defense 5, incidentally, so that definitely helped. So we're just at the recovery and recap. Henry Ballard did not recover any of his 2 stun. The Talon did, however, so he's just got 1 blood sitting on him. In terms of victory points gained, the only victory points gained were from Henry holding the ammo down here for 3. And I think that's it, because Strix didn't land any hits. The owl wasn't in range of her gaining any victory points. The High Court Lady, however, I believe improves the victory points gained by 1, I think. Is that how she works, or is it only on kills? Hang on. Yeah, she only gives bonus victory points on casualties, so it has to be a kill for her to pay out. So that brings us to finding out who's going first in Battle Round 2. More likely to be the Dark Knights, but we'll see. Oh, it isn't. It is the Court of Owls going first in Battle Round 2 as well. So the first thing to do in Battle Round 2 starts is the Speed Force phase. Red Death doesn't want to move from where he is, so he's using Muscle Growth for 1, Fast Combo for another 1, leaving him with 2, which he is using his unique power with, which is Black Bats. Any enemy model within 4 inches gets Enervating 2 at the end of the Raise the Plan phase. So basically the 1980s Talon is losing 2 counters to start the turn, which is pretty nasty. So to get Battle Round 2 started proper, Strix had activated, and she's basically the glass cannon of the Court of Owls crew. She's the heaviest hitter for sure. She charged into the round, 4 dual katana attacks, got through her tough skin, got through her defense 5 with 2 of them, managed to do 4 blood, and she has 7 endurance, so it's actually a pretty nasty smack to get the round started. So in retaliation, the round activated, she only had 3 attacks left after spending defense. She spent also a special to regen 1 blood off of her, so she's down to 3 blood on her card. But 3 strikes at Strix, managed to whiff quite spectacularly, and has fallen back towards the Merciless as a result. The 1980s Talon activated next, took some swings with her scimitar at the Red Death, missed, and then opted to fall back. She's kind of going between the 2 Owl markers. On the off chance she earns victory points in their AoE, also just trying to avoid the Merciless because he's rather nasty in close combat. The Batman Who Laughs has moved up to Henry Ballard. He had 4 attacks, didn't do too well with his rolls this time unfortunately. He managed to do 1 blood, 1 stun on Henry, coupled with the 2 he's got left on him. Does put him 2 away from death, well, unconsciousness at least, potentially death depending on where things go, but he's still standing. He is also however now contesting the ammo as well, so the ammo is not giving up points this turn unless the Batman Who Laughs goes down, and he is pretty tough, so we'll see. Oh, as an addendum, just been reminded that Henry has Invulnerability 1 again because it's a new battle round, so that blood was not taken, just the stun was, so he's sitting on half health. So next for the Court of Owls was the Talon, who has moved up to back up Strix right there across from the Merciless and the Drowned. Pass was used for the Dark Knights, so the High Court Lady activated. She was over there, she moved to the Sewer Grating, and has chosen, perhaps somewhat riskily, to pop out there. The other pass was used, so Lincoln Marsh, Henry Ballard. Lincoln Marsh activated, he flew again, and is currently up here. Whether he is going to come down from there remains to be seen. So to finish off the turn, it's just the Merciless and the Red Death. So to cover those last 2 activations, the Merciless activated, he had 6 attacks, he had 1 movement counter applied, he hopped over there, had just enough movement to reach Strix, did an astonishing 6 blood to her. She has 6 endurance, she is dead, so she has given up a bonus victory point on top of the 2, 1 for KO, 1 for casualty, then the bonus 1 because of the reanimated owl rule. The Red Death chased after the 1980s Talon, managed, well, keeping in mind he was hitting on 2s this turn because he used muscle growth and combo, so he had 6 attacks, not 4, managed to do 5 stun plus a knockdown, but the knockdown was irrelevant because 1980s Talon has 5 endurance, so she is knocked out for 1 victory point, but she has 2 chances to wake up. Pretty nasty right then there. We'll be back with the recovery and recap. So at the end of Battle Round 2, the 1980s Talon woke up. She didn't even need the reroll, so she is conscious on 1 endurance, knocked down. The ammo was contested, so the Court of Owls gained no victory points this turn. They did manage to do some damage to the Drowned and force her to retreat, so there is that, but they obviously lost Strix, which was their key damage dealer, so give and take. The Dark Knights, they earned, well, as we just covered, 3 victory points in total for taking Strix out, and 1 victory point for knocking out the 1980s Talon, so that's put them ahead just by a point, so it's still close. Lincoln, having such a high price in his head and being very sheepish about doing anything, is probably going to have to change now if they want to do anything of significance. Henry Ballard did not recover any of his stun, incidentally. That's the only other stun damage on the field. Let's see who is going first in Battle Round 3, and it really is more in favour of the Dark Knights this turn, but... oh, well, nope, it's actually going to be the Court of Owls. That means the Dark Knights get the final 3 activations of the game. So before the next battle round starts proper, Red Death has activated Super Speed level 1 and 2 and Muscle Growth, and has super sped his way over to here. So to get this battle round started, the Talon activated, ignored the Merciless, which may or may not be a wise choice, charged after the Drowned, attacked her, again having to get through her defense 5 and tough skin, used the L knife for, or whichever knife it is that gives rerolls on hits and wounds, was still only able to do 1 blood, but that does put her at 4. She used her defense dice, she used 3 defense dice, so now she has to choose between only doing 1 attack when she does eventually activate, or doing 2 but not being able to regen 1 blood. So that's a decision that will be made, but for now, let's see who's activating first for the Dark Knights. The Merciless activated for the Dark Knights, and he only had 4 attacks to dish out this turn because he wanted to be able to move a bit more freely. He charged the High Court Lady. She's actually honestly lucky he only did 2 successful hits for 4 blood, but the crit result giving the extra stun took her to her endurance cap, so she is knocked out. She's invaluable, but that only gives out an extra victory point if she is made a casualty, rather. So, as it stands, Sidekick knocked out for 2 victory points, and obviously another person down. She was gunning for the medical. Over to the Court of Owls now to see what they can do. Henry Ballard activated next and struck at the Batman Who Laughs and was not able to get through his defences. Made him use 2 of his 4 defence dice that he has allocated, although he can trickster them away when he does choose to activate. And it's just staying still there. So it's back over now to the Dark Knights. A quick activation for the Drowned happened next. She did choose to spend regeneration, so she healed 1 blood. She's back to 3. Struck with 1 attack with her devastating trident. Wasn't able to wound or get even a hit on the Talon. The 1980s Talon that was on the ground over here stood up and is going to help organise a Hail Mary attempt in Battle Round 4. She spent a movement counter to stand up. She moved over there. She took the Sewer Grating and has popped out all the way on the other side of the battlefield, right next to the Batman Who Laughs and Henry Ballard. The Red Death activated next and has struck at the Talon from behind. He was wounding him easily thanks to muscle growth, but he wasn't doing as many attacks. Only got 2 stun on him, so that's him just almost quite at half health. 1 more HP and he's at half health, or just over. He has that awkward amount, doesn't he? He has 7, I think. Yeah, he has 7, so he'll never truly be at half health, but you know what I mean. So we're going to cover the last 2 activations of the turn, I believe. If we come over here, Lincoln Marsh is gone. He has leaped down. He attacked the Batman Who Laughs, was only able to do 1 claw or retractable claws damage through for 1 blood, 1 stun. The Batman Who Laughs activated, put 4 attacks with teeth and claws into Lincoln, and also did 1 blood, 1 stun. So they're calling that a draw, as it stands currently anyway. So I think that takes us to the rest and recovery phase. So at the end of Battle Round 3, the 1980s Talon and Henry Ballard both recovered a stun. No one else did, and the High Court Lady did not wake up. In terms of victory points, again, the Court of Owls gained nothing this turn, and the Dark Knights gained 2 victory points for knocking out a Sidekick. And I think that is it. So, we already know that the Dark Knights are getting the next 3 first activations, if the game even goes that long, as it's not going so well for the Court of Owls, but there's the icon. The Dark Knights are going first in Battle Round 4. The Red Death activated Super Speed level 1, 2 and Muscle Growth again, and has ended up down here next to the medical just before the turn starts. So the Dark Knight's first proper activation was the Batman Who Laughs. He did better with just 3 attacks this turn, but 2 of them got through for 2 blood and 2 stun on Lincoln, coupled with the 1 blood, 1 stun he had. He has 2 endurance remaining and he had to lose a couple of counters, which is kinda nasty. He only had 2 defense dice as well, which didn't help. So he is wounded. Things are looking bad. So I guess you could say Operation Kill the Batman Who Laughs has begun, with Lincoln Marsh attacking with his 3 attacks. He opted to use his owl knife because he had less attacks left over thanks to being weakened by the damage he took, and that gives him rerolls, hits and wounds, but it only means he's doing 1 blood per success rather than blood and stun. Still managed to do 3 blood though. The Batman Who Laughs is what, he's sitting on 5 now, he has 9 endurance, so he's getting there. He was meant to move. He's going to move. He's going to run 4 inches that way, so he'll be slightly moved. Forgot to do that before starting the recorder up. So back over to the Dark Knights now. The Drowned activated next, spent a special to heal 1 more blood, so she's only got 2 blood on her card now. Struck out with 2 attacks against the Talon and wasn't able to get through his defense again. She isn't doing too well in the old melee department for whatever reason. Step 2 on killing the Batman Who Laughs was Henry Ballard. He used his L knife for rerolls on hits and wounds to get through that defense 5, managed to do 2 blood to him. So he is in the danger zone now with what, 6, 7, he's got 2 endurance left. He then moved out of the way both to kind of partially block where Lincoln is and also to give a free move, or a free like straight line for the 1980s Talon to get in there. The Merciless activated next, and he did something befitting of his name. He coup de grace the poor High Court Lady on the floor, did 6 blood to her. She is just a stain on the floor now, and she's invaluable, so she is giving up an extra victory point on top of the 2 for a Sidekick being made a casualty. The Merciless also just then went over here, trying to back up their fearless leader as he is getting accosted by 3 owls on the other side of the street there. So from left to right, we're just going to finish recapping the final activations of the turn. The 1980s Talon activated. Her job was to finish off the Batman Who Laughs. She whiffed, couldn't get through his defense 5. She only rerolls wounds with her Gladius, not hits, so that was the problem. The Red Death did not have enough, even with full movement allocated, to get in to attack, so he's just moved as close as he could get, which is obviously very close. Over here, the Talon struck at the Drowned, was unable to wound her, and then he kind of retreated in this direction. There. So that about covers it. Now we're on to recovery and recap. So at the end of that bloody round, the Batman Who Laughs recovered his stun, so he's just got 6 blood on him now. Lincoln recovered a stun, so he's on 3 and 2 respectively for blood and stun. The Talon did not recover anything, neither did the 1980s Talon. Henry Ballard is down to just 1 stun on his card. There was nobody left knocked out to wake up. In terms of victory points gained, the only points gained was a sidekick being made a casualty, and they were invaluable, so that was 3 victory points in total on top of the 2 they'd already given up for the High Court Lady being knocked unconscious the turn before. And we are also very aware, of course, that it's not contested. The Dark Knights are getting first activation in this battle round as well, so we'll be back in a second with the Speed Force round to cover. So for the Speed Force phase, the Red Death has used Super Speed level 1 for 4 inches of free movement before the round begins, Muscle Growth for +1 to his damage rolls if he makes any this turn, and 2 for the Black Bat, so any enemies within 4 inches get enervating too. So this is where he really shines, because Lincoln, the 1980s Talon, and Henry Ballard just lost 2 counters each. So to get the penultimate battle round started, although honestly I think we're heading for the end really quicker than that, the Red Death activated, just moved a little bit into punching range for Lincoln Marsh, did exactly 3 stun, which was enough to knock him out, so that's 4 victory points for knocking out a leader. Also removing any kind of hopes that he would be spared, because the Merciless will get close enough to coup de grace for the victory points for the objective, and the bonus victory points for the special rule made up for the team. So really it's going to be a concede, but the Court of Owls just want to see if, even despite being weakened by the Black Bats, that these two can take out the Batman Who Laughs. We'll see if they can, and that's probably going to do it. We'll see though. So Henry Ballard activated, he only had 2 attacks. Yeah, he had 2 attacks, wasn't able to do anything. The Batman Who Laughs, not to be confused with the Joker, he had everything in defense of the 5 dice he was allocated, used 2 of them to block that. 1980s Talon only had 2 attacks, she attacked him, didn't even need to, I think only 1 hit got through, because again she doesn't reroll hits, so he easily fended off both of them, and that basically takes us to the end of the game, because the Owls are in a losing position. The Talon has enough movement that he would make it to the medical this turn, and the Drowned could only really shoot dark water at him, which wouldn't kill him, but it would slow him down. The Merciless would obviously just need to double back and contest if need be. So we're going to be back in a second with some final thoughts and a tally of the scores, although it is a Court of Owls conceding. So that was an interesting one, trying our hand here at making up rules for a team that obviously was always going to be exceptionally powerful. The reason I went up against the Court of Owls list is because the Court of Owls are also very killy, even though they don't have much range. I think range would actually be better against the Batman collection here that we see. In terms of final score, obviously it doesn't really matter, but the Court of Owls only had 3 victory points for that first turn scoring of the ammo. The Dark Knights had 13 at count where we ended, but they obviously would have had more. Lincoln would have been coup de grace, Talon probably would have been at least knocked out, maybe killed, so take those at face value. Obviously it was going to be a win for the Dark Knights. Very early on it seemed like the strategy to split them up would have been workable, but they are all just so individually sturdy. Like, the fact there were so many of them didn't necessarily matter for each individual thing that happened. Like, if you think about it, Talon and Strix were doing okay against the Drowned. Merciless just came up and, without the Drowned doing anything, one-shot Strix. The Batman Who Laughs is just exceptionally tanky, so he could just kind of hold people at bay. So they didn't really do anything together, but obviously combined they are a very powerful team. I'm not sure how to make it more fair, because I feel like maybe if they went up against a very shooty army, lots and lots of guns waiting for them, maybe some better choices, maybe like the L marker objectives were utterly pointless. Should definitely have maybe taken like the loot for Lincoln to sit on if he was so scared of giving up so many points. But open to feedback. The rules that we worked with for this team will be written in the comments below. Feel free to add what you think might make them fair. Teams are allowed to have, especially when it's powerful teams, are allowed to have rules that make them worse, because it helps keep it fair. There's obviously a reason why you can't take these as a team, because they are all individually so powerful. But I thought it would be nice to try and think up something. Needs a bit more work, I feel. I was going to say maybe like something that affects like how egotistical they all are, but they're really not. They kind of have good teamwork in the Batman Metal comics. They don't really show many like weaknesses, honestly. I guess you can make up a rule where like the enemy crew knows they're fighting them and have like nth metal gear or something, like for a bonus +1 to hit against. I don't know. There's I think there's something to work with there. This was a bit of an experiment. We'll do some proper crews next time, just normal, everyday crews. Nothing overly complicated, hopefully. But thank you for watching this one. I hope you enjoyed anyway, and I'll see you in the future. Ta-ta for now.